Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. His Majesty King Abdullah, accompanied by Her Majesty Queen Rania, returned home after an official visit to Japan. During the visit, King Abdullah held two separate meetings with Japan's Emperor Akito and Empress Miko, and Crown Prince Naruhito and his wife, Princess Masako. The king also held talks with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe on means to expand joint cooperation in various domains, mainly the economic and investment areas. His Majesty and Prime Minister Abe witnessed the signing of an agreement for a $300 million development policy loan presented by the Japanese government over 3 years to support Jordan's budget. They also witnessed the signing of a bilateral investment treaty to promote and protect investments. The Cabinet approved the 2019 draft state budget law, foreseeing public revenues at 8.61 billion dinars and expenditures at 9.255 billion dinars, with an after-foreign aid deficit of 646 million dinars. According to the draft bill, which needs the Parliament's endorsement, 8.013 billion dinars of the total spending will go to current expenditures, while 1.242 billion dinars is earmarked for capital spending. The figures indicate that 437 million dinars increase in public spending in the 2019 fiscal year. The draft bill indicates that about 100% of current spending in 2019 will be financed by domestic revenues. Overall, local revenues will cover 86.5% of public expenditures, compared with 80.1% in 2018. For the first time, the draft budgets of 29 governmental units will be attached to the state budget law in order to foster transparency and ensure tighter oversight over these entities' spending. The 2019 state budget law also earmarked a 654 million dinars for the social safety net against 624 million in 2018. The 19th edition of the Olive Festival opened today under the patronage of Prime Minister Omar Razaz. The festival, organized by the National Center for Agricultural Research, aims at supporting small-scale farmers and rural women and serves as a platform through which they can display and sell their agro-produce. Minister of Agriculture Ibrahim Shahade said the government is keen that agriculture remains a key source of employment for Jordanians, noting that it is the sector most interlinked with poverty and unemployment. Prime Minister Omar Razaz met with Chairman of the Political Committee of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, Jensen Mons, and an accompanying delegation. During the meeting, the Prime Minister spoke about Jordan's political and socio-economic reforms, emphasizing that his government remains committed to upholding democracy and freedoms and expanding the youth and women's role in decision-making. Razaz said his government's priorities for the next 2 years will focus on promoting a state of law and accelerating investments and economic growth, in addition to enhancing social solidarity. Mons said the delegation will prepare a report to keep the kingdom a member in the Assembly after learning about Jordan's reforms and its efforts to strengthen the value of democracy, justice, and equality. Negotiators from Iran, Russia and Turkey met in the Kazakh capital Astana for talks aiming to preserve a fragile 10-week-old truce in northern Syria. Talks were underway between delegations from the 3 regional power brokers, as well as the Syrian government and opposition. The meeting is expected to focus on the establishment of Syria's constitutional committee, as well as on the creation of a demilitarized zone in the Idlib area. Discussions will also focus on creating conditions for the return of refugees and internally displaced people, as well as post-conflict reconstruction. The United Nations will be represented at the negotiations by Syria's Special Envoy Staffan de Mistura. The negotiations are expected to conclude tomorrow. The Poor Man of Nippur is a violent comedy about revenge set in ancient Iraq and very hard to follow, not in terms of plot, but in terms of language. The dialect has not been spoken for 2,000 years. The film was made by students and lecturers from Britain's University of Cambridge who claim it is the first film ever made in Babylonian, a redundant ancient Iraqi language which dates back to around 2000 BC. It follows Jamil Nuntra, a pauper who vows revenge after being cheated out of his only possession, a goat, by the city's mayor. The tale is based on a 2,700-year-old poem that was found etched on a clay tablet at an archaeological site in southeast Turkey. The director, a fellow at St. John's College, University of Cambridge, said the idea to make the film had come from his students who believed it would bring the poem to life.
Assyriology is something very few people know much about, and we thought that they should know more. So the film seemed a good way to take it forward.
To sports, the Copa Libertadores final between Argentine rivals River Plate and Boca Juniors will take place in early December outside Argentina after fan violence forced the match to be postponed last week. The South American Football Confederation said the game, the South American equivalent of the Champions League final, should be played on December 8th or 9th, but did not name the venue. After playing a 2-2 draw in the final's first leg, Argentina's two biggest clubs were scheduled to meet in the decisive second leg last Saturday at River's Monumental Stadium, but was called off after several Boca players were hurt when their bus was attacked by River fans. Asunción, the capital of Paraguay, Miami, as well as cities in Italy, Brazil and Colombia could be potential sides for the rescheduled match. And finally, for a quick look at the weather forecast. Unstable conditions are expected to affect the kingdom tomorrow, bringing with it cloudy skies with a chance for scattered showers accompanied by thunder in the eastern regions. Winds will be southeasterly moderate to brisk. Amman can expect a high of 20 degrees Celsius and a low of 10. Relatively warm conditions prevail in the Dead Sea, the Jordan Valley and the Gulf of Aqaba, with daytime temperatures in the port city at 27 degrees, dropping down to 18 at night. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Ali Atuqan. Thank you for joining us and have a good night.